crashing down for Bernard King. Everyone thought his career was over. Everyone except Bernard. Through hard work and determination, he made his way back to the top of his game. This week, it's Bernard King on Vintage NBA.
2 seconds, 1 second. West throws it up. He makes it.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ.
Yes, basketball has changed. It's always been a great game, but now it has a new spirit.
He dunks like Dr. J.
He might be the new Iceman.
The modern day Wilt Chamberlain.
He looked like Magic Johnson.
The future has arrived. You are watching what greatness is all about.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vintage NBA. I'm Robin Roberts. Today, we feature a player who at one time was the king of basketball in New York, Bernard King. He went from the playgrounds of Brooklyn to stardom with his hometown Knicks and became one of the NBA's most explosive scorers. King's heyday with the Knicks was back in the early 80s when he was the hero of kids all over the city. One of them was a playground legend in his own right, who went on to become an all-star point guard in the NBA. He's Kenny Anderson, and this week he's in the chair with his memories of Bernard King.
Well, you know, growing up in New York City at a young age, probably about 14 years old, you know, everybody's talking about Bernard King and the Knicks. I remember on the back of the Daily News, they had a Texas massacre where you just torched San Antonio and Dallas for like 50 back-to-back.
Bernard looking for 50, and he's got it. And we have seen consecutive remarkable efforts by Bernard King.
I remember Marv Albert doing a lot of the Knicks games, and all you hear, you know, is a gorgeous move by Bernard King. Again.
Beautiful move by Bernard. Bernard King once again. Again for King. Yes, and it counts.
You know, he was just a very big part of all basketball players throughout New York, in the playgrounds, in high school, what have you. My brother told me some of the high school stories when Bernard King was in high school and how he was so publicized in college.
Take special note of Bernard King from New York, and now home on the University of Tennessee campus.
And my mother even knew some, you know, about, you know, Bernard King, not even a player, but just the aura he brought to New York.
King's transition from the sidewalks of Brooklyn was remarkably smooth. Picked as Player of the Year in the Southeastern Conference, King wound up the season as the highest scorer in Tennessee basketball history.
I think for all New York players, the determination, the hard work to accomplish what he accomplished was just great.
Here comes Bernard. Bernard doesn't need much of an opening.
You know, he didn't do anything but put the ball in the basket. And to do that night in, night out is very difficult. And he was doing it, you know, with double team, triple.
Bounce! Has he missed the shot?
I don't think so. But Bernard King is just punishing everybody in his way.
When Bernard King gets his hands on the ball, he is unstoppable.
That was a real big part of his game face, his focus. He was like that throughout the whole, I guess, three and a half hours of his preparation for the game before he would go out on the floor. He was like that. You know, I'm about my job, I'm about my business, and that's how I go about it. I think, you know, if you play in New York, in the playgrounds, you kind of like all the players that play in New York has that kind of same attitude, same focus, that hard-nosed, competitive edge.
Beautiful play, Kenny Anderson.
Is that nice? Is that nice or what?
That is a point guard that has had a run the fast break.
Absolutely.
You know, it would have been great just playing with a guy like that my whole career. It would have been absolutely awesome, you know, drop the ball in the low post. And when he runs the floor, he's a great finisher. He had great hands, so if he got the ball in the lane, it was an assist, it was 2 points.
What a break. That's vintage Bernard King.
he played with me in New Jersey, and that was real interesting for me. You know, here goes this legend, you know, and I'm at that time, I think I'm second year, third year in the league, and he comes in the locker room, and it's like, wow, you know, Bernard King. And my brother was like, man, you know who you playing with? You know, you playing with Bernard King. I wanted to speak to him, but I really, didn't know what to say, so I just kept my mouth shut. It was like, wow, it's a great feeling for me. It's like, man, I made it. I arrived in the NBA, and I'm also playing with, one of the greatest players of all time. I came out of New York City. New York is the mecca of basketball, and that was the name, you heard Bernard King.
The 1993 Nets had a real New York flavor. They had Kenny from Queens, Bernard from Brooklyn, and Jason Williams from Manhattan's Lower East Side. And they had plenty of debates about which borough had the best playground ball. For King, it was his final season, and it brought his career full circle as he was drafted by the Nets in 1977. But in between was a journey that tested him both mentally and physically. More about that when we continue in just a moment.
We were in a one-point game. Reggie Theus was breaking down the sideline for a layup, and Bernard King tried to catch him. You could hear the blowout in the knee, and it was like someone shot him as he went to the floor.
Coast to coast. King, yes, and it counts. What a shot by Bernard King.
Bernard King played for 5 different NBA teams, but his best years came with the New York Knicks. After their championship teams and before Patrick Ewing arrived, the Knicks went through some pretty lean years. But in the early 80s, Bernard provided hope and excitement to fans in the Big Apple. He became one of the game's top scorers, but perhaps his greatest achievement came in the form of a rebound. It was the way he bounced back from adversity and regained his place as an all-star.
From the Washington Bullets, he led the NBA in scoring in 1985, suffering a career-threatening knee injury at the end of that season. He has successfully fought back to challenge for that title again this year, and forward Bernard King.
That's one of the most memorable moments of my career, for the very reason that I thought about that moment for 6 years. It actually took me 6 years to get back to the level that I felt I had been at during that period that I was with the Knicks.
In his 6th NBA season, Brooklyn native Bernard King got the chance to come home as he was traded to the New York Knicks.
You know, you grew up as a kid and you watch Dave DeBusschere, you watch Walt Frazier and Willis Reed, and you dream of one day maybe being out there on the court with the Knicks as well. I used to have goosebumps when I drove to Madison Square Garden.
And the Knicks coming again to Bernard King, to the baseline. He put the shot up, it counts! And the Garden is on its feet.
Bernard King did very, very few things with pizzazz, with fanciness, with a lot of splash.
Super move by King.
He had such a repertoire of offensive, big plays, his spin moves.
Bernard King once again.
His release on his post-up were one of the quickest releases ever.
Bernard pulls the trigger, bullseye.
He was like a swooping bird on the fast break.
Bernard King on the run.
That was really probably the most exciting part of the game for me, when I would fill lanes and I felt like I was a deer and I was able to just sprint at will.
There's Bernard releasing the one-man fast break.
In 1984, on a trip to Texas, Bernard went on a 2-game scoring rampage.
5 seconds. Here's Bernard looking for 50. He's got it.
We're at San Antonio. Bernard scores 50. Next night we go to Dallas, and you figure, well, what else can he do to top this?
Give it to King. The screaming.
They say, give it to B.
All right, here it is. Bernard looking for 50, and he's got it. Back-to-back 50-point games for Bernard King.
Bernard had risen to the peak of his game and was lifting the Knicks along with him. In the '84 playoffs, he almost single-handedly carried New York past Detroit. In the next round, the Knicks lost in 7 games to Boston, the eventual NBA champs. But King left a lasting impression on the Celtics.
Bernard King, I think, is the best forward in the league, hands down. And he's the type of guy that gets it to you every minute he's on the court.
But then in March of 1985, with King leading the league in scoring, everything changed in a game against Kansas City.
Look out, King hurt himself.
We were in a one-point game. Reggie Theus was breaking down the sideline for a layup, and Bernard King tried to catch him. You could hear the blowout in the knee, and it was like someone shot him as he went to the floor.
That was a devastating period for me, naturally, to be at the peak of my career. And in one quick moment to have it all basically end and to be told that your career, may possibly even be over.
You might say that Bernard King was in a dream world, but it turned into a nightmare.
Bernard had suffered a torn anterior cruciate ligament in his knee, one of the game's most dreaded injuries, and it appeared that his career was in serious jeopardy.
Few, if any, professional basketball player has ever returned to his previous level of performance with a tear of this ligament.
But King simply refused to accept the idea that he might never play again. He embarked on many months of painful rehab and dedicated himself to returning to the game.
I personally believe I'm definitely going to play again. I don't have time for being down. I'm a fighter, and don't ever count Bernard King out.
True to his word, Bernard returned to the court 2 years after his injury.
I think we waited long enough. Here's the captain, Bernard King.
I said, hey, you're back. You can play. You can play again. And you have it physically, and you can build on it from here.
He would continue his comeback as a member of the Washington Bullets, where he proved to everyone, including himself, that he still had his old skills.
It's good to see him run the floor like that. That's what he did so well before the knee injury. The fans applauding a tremendous performance by Bernard King. His first 50-point game since undergoing major knee surgery.
Finally, in February of 1991, Bernard's comeback was complete. He officially regained his place among the NBA's elite when he was selected to play in the All-Star game.
This is a culmination of a dream for me.
From the Washington Bullets, he led the NBA in scoring in 1985, suffering a career-threatening knee injury at the end of that season. He has successfully fought back the challenge for that title again this year at the age of 34.
To rise back to that level at the age of 34 years old, knowing that for 6 years is something I've worked on 12 months out of the year to make happen again, it was an unreal moment for me.
Playing in his fourth All-Star game, forward Bernard King.
Bernard always said his goal wasn't just to make it back, but to play like his old self, and he did just that in the 91 season. In one game, he scored 52 points, and afterwards he gave the game ball to Dr. Norman Scott, who performed the surgery on his knee. But perhaps the most stirring moment that year was his return to Madison Square Garden. We'll take a look at that, plus some other famous Garden comebacks coming up next. Welcome back, everyone, to Vintage NBA. It was 1942 when General Douglas MacArthur uttered the famous words, "I shall return," and he did. In 1987, under very different circumstances, Bernard King made good on his own promise to return. He came back from knee surgery. And on NBA.com, we'll see how he did that year with the Bullets. He averaged 17 points and shot over 50% from the field. Not bad. One of the high points of Bernard's comeback was his emotional return to Madison Square Garden in 1991. King, back on his old court, lit up the Knicks for 49 points. He had something to prove to his former team because they didn't try to re-sign him after his injury.
And the crowd has been won over by the one-time New York Knicks.
This was my statement to all of New York that I am indeed the same player. But more importantly, I was very pleased to win this game. But yes, it was an emotional game for me.
And of course, who can forget March of '95 when Michael Jordan, in just the 4th game of his celebrated comeback, put on a remarkable one-man show.
It's a three-pointer. Wide for Michael Jordan. Got it in the air. Michael Jordan has 55.
4 years later, the Knicks would stage a comeback of their own thanks to Larry Johnson. In Game 3 of the 1999 Eastern Conference Finals, he turned the Garden nearly upside down with his miraculous 4-point play to defeat Indiana and help the Knicks advance to the NBA Finals. But basketball is just part of the action at Madison Square Garden. The place called the world's most famous arena has been the scene of many other famous comebacks, some of them from the world of boxing. In March of '71, Muhammad Ali fought Joe Frazier at the Garden. Ali was coming back after being stripped of his title for refusing to fight in Vietnam. Their greatest lost that fight, but came back to beat Smokin' Joe 3 years later at the Garden. After the Beatles broke up, John Lennon was out of the limelight for a few years, but he returned to the concert stage in the early '70s at the Garden. Things weren't quite as pleasant for '50s icon Rick Nelson when he came back to the Garden in '72 for a rock and roll revival show. When he started playing his newer material, the audience booed him. That led to a song, Garden Party, in which he vented frustration at the fans. It seemed as if Frank Sinatra was always making a comeback, and every time he did, he ended up at the Garden. In the world of politics, there's Bill Clinton, the man who proclaimed himself the comeback kid. After losing the New Hampshire primary, he came back to win the Democratic nomination at MSG in the summer of '92. In fact, the Garden itself has come back in several different forms. The original opened in 1879 in part of Manhattan known as Madison Square. The current arena, which opened in 1968, is actually the 4th Madison Square Garden. And speaking of comebacks, we'll be coming back in just a moment with one of Bernard King's greatest games from the 1984 playoffs against the Pistons. Stay with us.
What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
By the early 1980s, the New York Knicks were once again a force in the NBA. And the main reason was Bernard King, who led the Knicks into the '84 playoffs. Their first round opponents were the Detroit Pistons, another team on the rise, thanks to a young guard named Isaiah Thomas. In the first 4 games, Bernard averaged 42 points, but the Pistons still managed a split. So it's on to Game 5, April 27th, 1984, at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. With less than 2 minutes left, we join Marv Albert and Butch Beard in this week's Airwave Archive.